The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
For Sunday afternoon, the 4th of July, 2021. This is episode 46 of the Anime Roundtable Canada, presented by Anime North. Good afternoon from 6 Points, 10 minutes south of the Anime North compound in the Toronto West End. Mike Nicolas, James Austin, Kevin Ng, Mohamed Sharmarke, and Geoff Greig with you as we begin summer.
The final frontier.
Yeah. Well, considering the forest fires, sure.
Well, the heat in general and stuff like that.
All the heat going on the West Coast, even more sure. Landslides, you bet. Quick reminder again, you can contact us. Email animeroundtable@gmail.com, Twitter and Instagram @animeroundtable, animeroundtable.com for show notes and past episodes. And we'll mention the Facebook group, the Discord, the Twitch, and the YouTube. Someday.
Why do we even bother mentioning it if we're not going to work on it?
Consistency, guys. Come on, consistency.
It's consistency, and I'm working on a script here. Where do you want to start this week? Or I have an idea where I want to start this week, because since the last episode a couple weeks ago, all four of you dum-dums have gotten your second vaccines.
Who's got two thumbs and a microchip inside of him? This guy.
Just to let you know, Mike, even if we are going to your place one day to record, we have to get those clear plastic dividers like we've seen on many of the streams, and we'll all be wearing masks.
Have you updated your HVAC system, Mike?
I think the filters were cleaned earlier this week, but that's about it while I was out at work. Okay, so this is a little bit of full disclosure. All five of us have now gotten our second doses.
What shot did you guys get?
I ended up with a Pfizer.
Pfizer gang. What about you, Geoff?
Both Moderna.
Both Modernas. See that's a rarity. See, here's the story going on in Ontario. There's a little bit of vaccine shopping going around because Moderna is becoming much more prevalent or much more common here in these parts. So people have gotten so used to steering away from AstraZeneca because of all the bad press it's gotten. But it's given, by default, all good press to Pfizer, and for a long time, Pfizer was pretty much the only thing going for an mRNA vaccine because Moderna's weren't as plentiful, and now Moderna's making up for lost time, and it's now becoming the only choice in much of Ontario, and a lot of people are known to walk away from that.
It's like Pfizer's Coke and Moderna's Pepsi. Some people just like Coke, man.
Yeah. Although Coke and Pepsi have the same end result, and so do Pfizer and Moderna, right?
Well, I think both me and Kevin also got Pfizer for both of our shots as well. But it all depends. You don't know until you go to your clinic, and they'll tell you whether they're giving you Pfizer or Moderna. But at the end of the day, it's going to help us get over the hump.
And the thing is that there have been reports of people walking away from their appointments when they go to them and find out that they're not getting Pfizer.
Those spoiled individuals.
Well, Mohamed is the only one, and now we're going to give some full disclosure because I know Mohamed got the mix.
Wait, what?
Did you get the mix?
Hold on. So Mike works at one of these clinics, and I happened to get my shot there. And I'm not a big fan of needles, so I wasn't really paying attention. So what are you trying to tell me here, Mike?
Oh, wait, what was your first shot?
Pfizer.
It was a Pfizer. See, that's what I meant by the mix.
Okay. I thought you played like some kind of switcheroo at that.
Oh no, I wouldn't have her do that. Yeah. The full disclosure is that I have a temporary job right now at one of the Toronto-run mass vaccination clinics. Actually, just a little bit away from 6 Points here.
Oh, the 427.
Yeah, just a few minutes from 6 Points. So I've been there for almost a month now. I took great interest actually in talking about the vaccine clinics here in the West End. And of course, if you've listened to this podcast, you know that the most famous one to Anime North fans is the one that takes place on the Anime North compound. The Toronto Congress Centre is one of the, I think the third or fourth largest of the 9 vaccine clinics that the city runs. Only the Metro Toronto Convention Centre and Downsview, the hangar at Downsview Park, are bigger. And then number 3, depending on a given day, that number 3 could go to either the Toronto Congress Centre or Cloverdale Mall, both in the West End. They're actually 5 minutes away from each other, just along the 427 and 27. And Cloverdale's where I am. So I actually had the choice to work either at Cloverdale or Toronto Congress Centre, and I chose Cloverdale because I don't have to go too far. And I'm just going to speak from experience right now. It is you feel it's a very interesting place to work because you have a bunch of people who come from different backgrounds who have been displaced as well by the pandemic for various reasons from their normal jobs, whether it's with another company or with the city in other departments, because there's a good chunk of Parks and Recreation employees working with me who have been displaced from their normal jobs, usually as working at Toronto-run community centers and pools. And the last almost 1 month I've been there, it's been, I have to say, one of the more interesting and I will say rewarding experiences I've had to do. The tasks for us are very simple tasks, but I always like to say they're not unimportant. They have some importance because they free up the people who do the really important things in our clinics to focus on those things. Whether it's like all I do is be a support to these people, and these people are administrative staffs who make sure that the people who are coming in are properly ready to go for their vaccines. They have the proper appointment and make sure, get all their clerical work done before they get their vaccines. The medical staff, the clinical staffs who actually administer the vaccines. Our job is to make sure they don't have to worry about things like crowd control or cleaning up simple spaces, scrubbing down chairs, aside from the ones that they are immediately working on, or picking up garbage. They can focus completely and solely on the tasks they're supposed to do to serve people who desperately are looking for a way out from what's been going on for almost, how many months now are we talking?
I think we're at 16 or 17 at this point.
Year plus, certainly. So it's been a nice experience, and truth be told, it's not a job, like really I shouldn't be in that job, but then again we shouldn't be where we are. But that's where we are. And the dum-dums I want to talk about, just to see how you guys are faring after you guys got your doses. Now, Geoff, I know, is furthest out from getting his second dose, because he got it not too long after I did, which were days apart, more than roughly 2 weeks ago. So I won't ask about his symptoms. But Mo, Kevin, James, this is a great day to be doing this podcast because maybe you guys are suffering from symptoms, which might make this experience today awesome. How are you guys feeling?
Feeling great. I only had like some symptoms prior the day after, and it was just a tiny bit more than after my first shot. And it was just a little fatigue, and then a little more aching in the arm where I had the shot. So there wasn't anything really bad compared to what other people had. I know some other people definitely had more severe reactions, maybe some headaches and stuff like that, or some feverish feelings, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Kevin.
So I regret to inform you that I will not be suddenly leaving the recording of this episode because of sudden side effects. I am also doing very well. I had a minor headache last night that I didn't feel warranted needing to take any aspirin. And I did have some minor muscle aches, and I did have a bit of a sore throat shortly after I got my second shot on Friday, but otherwise I felt fine. I guess I was a little fatigued when I woke up in the morning, but I honestly didn't think it was much of anything.
Mo, do you want me to speak for you, or do you want to speak for yourself on this one?
I mean, it's okay.
For the
Was
record,
Mike embarrassed you there, Mo, when you went to get your vaccine or something?
yeah, so that's because Mo went to the place where Mike was working to get vaccinated.
Yeah, he was at Cloverdale. Okay, Mo, what do you want to say about it? And then I'll add my observations from it.
It's I'm just waiting for that vaccine passport, man. I want to get my pass, to be able to do shit and whatnot. So,
Mm-hmm.
Abroad?
Sure, why not? At some point, they're gonna open that border, and we're all gonna go to across.
But you just got to make sure you have the right vaccine, right? Because they said that those entering Canada, they have to be approved vaccines for Canada. So say you had the Sputnik 5 from Russia, or you had the Sino vaccine from China, you can't get into Canada unless you go through quarantine.
I will say this. It's hilarious how we're still in stage 2 and stage 3 hasn't happened yet. It's going to be like end of the month. They're going to maybe open the borders to the U.S. before opening movie theaters and indoor dining in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, come on.
You know what I just realized? And we're just going to stop for a couple seconds here.
Mm-hmm.
My microphone's plugged in, but I'm pretty sure the microphone itself is not being used. So...
It's okay.
Folks, give me 1 second. We're just going to stop. I'm just going to make sure the microphone is now set to work, and then I will continue this thought, okay?
Okay.
Boy, we've already fucked up this episode. Back in a second.
Hey folks, my name is Brett and I'm one of the hosts of Skeleton House, an audio-only Let's Play podcast where my two friends Jess...
What is happening? Oh my god!
...and Steve...
Even he looks spooked.
...play through video games, and I edit them, add context, and act as your eyeballs. Also, we have a cat. Come check us out at skeletonhouse.buzzsprout.com or look up Skeleton House on your favorite podcast app. Or your least favorite podcast app. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life.
Okay. That's better. So where were we?
I believe we're going to talk about anime.
Oh yeah, Mohamed's vaccine appointment. That's right. Nice try. See, the only observation I made when Mo was there, and it's not to say there was anything huge. It's just that, he came in just before I had my break. And as he left, I just asked him, do you want to hang out at the Tim Hortons nearby? Just get a drink before you head home. And he just said, no, I'm completely wiped now. It looks like you were starting to exhibit symptoms right away. Or you're just that tired.
It's been a long day.
It's just been a long day. Have you? But nothing serious.
No.
You're all okay.
I mean, my arm felt like it was going to fall off the other day, but other than that, it's all good.
Mm-hmm. See, so all 5 of us are now fully vaccinated. For reference, as mentioned, I got mine just before we did episode 45. The worst I could say for myself was, yes, the sore arm. I can't really say anything about fatigue because I don't recall anything. But the one thing I surely could recall was having a headache on 2 separate days, on the Monday and on the Wednesday. And they weren't really strong headaches, but they never went away with sleep. So I did find myself having to take an Advil on both occasions. And that's it.
Everyone who hasn't should definitely get the vaccine, their second doses. But I definitely had the full suite of temperature fluctuations the night of getting my vaccine.
Yeah, it's nothing that, and that's something that has to be noted. I think every single person, the nurse or paramedic who gave you the vaccine probably gave you the line, your symptoms, should you have any, will feel stronger than the first time.
Yeah.
Because that's the line I was fed at the time too.
And it'll be different for everybody too. So
it's not necessarily
everyone reacts differently.
Yeah,
and
but,
nothing lasting.
No, nothing lasting. Nothing that a day or so can't fix. And yeah, if you feel the need to take a Tylenol, take a Advil, a over-the-counter painkiller, there it is.
I had some friends who like ran the full gamut of side effects, and then I had other friends where they told me, well, no, I stocked up on food and bubble tea for 2 days and nothing happened. I was like, wow. So
except the bubble tea now tastes crappy, right?
Well, I'm assuming they drank all the bubble tea when they needed to anyway.
Well, I tried to think,
yeah,
bubble tea's supposed to help you when you're feeling like garbage.
Well, yeah, they kept they let the tapioca soak in that thing.
I don't know.
That's probably what could have happened. All right, but that's much of the COVID update. For reference, yes, the numbers in Ontario have kept going down. We're, I think, regularly straddling either side of 200 most days now. That pretty accurate?
Yeah, I think it's been like 180, 210 kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're straddling both sides of 200. So things are looking okay right now, but and for what it's worth, Ontario has opened up slightly more. We're what the province is presently referring to as stage 2 of the reopening process. So stores inside malls without storefronts have been allowed to open with capacity limits.
The lines, holy moly, the lines!
And
I hear you can get a haircut too sometimes.
Yes, and for the first time since roughly November, a lot of personal care services, salons, barbers, etc., they've opened up. The only exception was that brief period when York Region, the northern suburbs of Toronto, were briefly allowed to open up, but
I got my the last haircut in that last brief period, and I think in February. Mm-hmm. And I got a haircut on Canada Day or July 1st.
Yeah, that's on my agenda this week.
Yeah, I gotta get one too. It's been 10 months.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And for what it's worth, and going back just to the Cloverdale Clinic one more time before we move on, the Mayor of Toronto, John Tory, visited our clinic just before it opened up on Thursday and gave us a pep talk and released a public statement. And the one thing I have to say I noticed when he gave his statement, he had a ponytail.
Wait, what?
He had a bit of a ponytail, yeah.
So basically, Trudeau's beard was going to touch his head? Is that what it is?
That's a good way to put it. That's an interesting way to put it. But in any event, he badly needs a haircut, and a lot of people will say Trudeau needs something else. Anyway, it was interesting to see him. Everybody wanted to take a selfie with him, I'll tell you that much, when he visited that day on Thursday morning. And yes, he did release a statement as well, and that was broadcast on CTV's local news channel, CP24, which I know Mo got a screen grab of.
Yeah, you weren't on screen, Mike. What happened?
Oh, no, that we were... As I said, he gave us the pep talk, then we went to get ready for our shifts. So.
I get it. So like they handpicked a few like photogenic individuals to show up next to them?
Well, they look better than me, I'll say that much. So that's the story right now. That's our COVID update, and I guess that's more of a personal version of it. Hopefully we're near the end of this. Well, at least I think we're in a better spot than we were at the beginning of 2021, which, we thought we were turning the corner at that point, and maybe we did with the vaccine, but it has taken a while. So we are where we are. It's okay right now.
Remember February?
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was great. Okay. I don't know. Is there anything else to really add to that? There isn't much, is there?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh wait, what's the under over on was it stage 6? No. Fourth lockdown or something?
See, the thing is, the fourth wave, I could say is, it's not as if I'm an expert, so I'll defer to them, but they're always weary of that fourth wave. So it's a possibility, I guess.
And it is the worry of people going back and forth across borders and stuff like that from different places that may be more vaccinated than others. And we're seeing that obviously again cropping up with the Olympics in Japan coming up. People wondering about that.
We'll talk some Olympics a bit later, I think. So there's that. And as I said, we're hopefully near the end, but it also means the end of the pandemic series for this podcast. So who knows how the podcast will go moving forward after all this mess is done. But we hope we've been able to at least entertain and educate you or enlighten you in various forms, at least when it comes to the stuff we talk about. All right. Well, today is July the 4th. A year ago around this point, Anime Expo and Aniplex and what's the other one? And Crunchyroll? They did their expo?
it was Funimation.
Funimation did an
their
expo.
own convention.
They did their own online conventions this weekend. I guess in many respects is the unofficial start of convention season. Of course, a very different version of convention season. Of the titles we've just mentioned, Aniplex held an online fest for 6 hours from 9 p.m. Toronto time to a bit after 3 a.m. And we're going to talk about that. Anime Expo has been ongoing this weekend online, although it's behind a paywall. $5 to charity. What charity was it again? Does people know? Is it? I forgot what. It sounded like a good cause. I remember that. I just don't know the specifics of the charity that they were pitching the admission fee to. $5, or as we say in Canadian, what's the exchange rate? Like $7.50 plus tax. But does anyone remember the charity that they're doing that for? Can one of you guys look it up just quickly while we talk about this?
Right.
Yeah. Who are they doing the admissions for? So those have been ongoing. That's this weekend. Next weekend is another seemingly big weekend for anime fandom. The second lockdown will take place. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Anime Matsuri will also take place in Houston, and that's set to be, I think, the first huge in-person gathering, certainly in Houston, and maybe of any sort, much less anime itself. I'd have to double check that. But yeah, that's a pretty large-scale convention by all accounts. So I wouldn't mind talking about this just a little bit. Has anyone seen any of what's going on so far this weekend? At least in terms of, did anyone catch Aniplex Online or any of AX to this point?
I'm looking forward to next week's lockdown.
Yeah, Anime Lockdown looks very good with the schedule they released and stuff like that. They did do, I think, the week before last Friday in June, a little event announcing their different guests and that. It was an interesting mix of...
It was an interesting hour, yeah. Okay, we'll go to Lockdown a little bit. Okay, I'm pretty sure none of us would have caught Anime Expo. We're,
I did catch Anime Expo. I found out what our charitable $5 was going to if we had gone, Mike, and that was Community Action Fund by Hate is a Virus, and that is to support a local California charity, I guess, that fights Asian hate and stuff like that.
Which has been obviously a touch point over the last year or so, to go along with a lot of other things, really. Mm-hmm. So no one has checked out Anime Expo, so I didn't check the guest list there or whatever was going to happen there, so I can't really speak to that. Was there? Anything there caught your attention, James, or not really?
I'm not too much. I've seen some of the announcements. Most of it was just talking about upcoming streaming season and maybe some streaming news for what's going to happen, what some of the companies like Crunchyroll and Funimation got for fall 2021. And then, of course, more licensing announcements this week for light novels and manga across the spectrum of publishers, quite a bit of them.
Okay. So, and no one caught Aniplex Online?
I did catch some of it. That was another one. Well, that was interesting. They were going after two audiences. You had the Japanese audience, and they also had the English audience. And they were doing it from Japan, of course. So that's why it was kind of later for us in the East Coast. It was almost when I had to watch the recording of the East 40th, sorry, it wasn't East, it was the Falcom 40th anniversary concert a couple of weeks ago because they did that from Japan and it was same thing, whereas like 1 a.m. our time, East Coast. So sometimes we're not always in the best time zone, to put it lightly.
No,
But
and the Sonic one, right?
yeah, but the concert, I know you caught the last half, Mike. I caught the first half, and it was nice. They had Sword Art Online. They had the ending to 86. They were going through, I think, some of their shows that I guess were happening for the summer. They had a 10th anniversary retrospective on Madoka, and they also had, I guess, a spot in regards to Fate Grand. What was it?
Fate Grand Order?
Yeah, Fate Grand Order.
Fate Grand Order, something for Sword Art Online, talking about the popularity of the Demon Slayer movie. It's an Aniplex show. It's an Aniplex promotion device. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they had some interviews in that. It was interesting because the two hosts, of course, they were both fluently bilingual in English and Japanese. So it's interesting. It was on the fly going back and forth. So sometimes it was interesting seeing them go back and forth, and they were very comfortable, both of them doing it. And I know Maxwell Powers, I think his name was, I know him from before because he's done a lot of work, VA work, for video games and stuff like that, doing trailers. Like if you've ever seen an Inti Crates commercial or trailer, it's like he's done the English and the Japanese, and he has this very distinct, deep voice, both in English and Japanese, I feel.
Well, I do want to mention the host for a little bit. Sally Amaki.
Sally Amaki as well. She was
a member of 22-7. She plays Sakura, I believe her name is.
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell Powers, like I don't know much about Sally Amaki. I know that she's Japanese American. Maxwell Powers is also Japanese American. So yeah, both are very fluent in English. Both are at worst competent in Japanese. I know that there's been some shade thrown at Miss Amaki at the past that her Japanese may not be as good. But I would call her Japanese better than my English. And I know she appeared also in character as her 22-7 character, Sakura, for a bit. Yes, it's interesting that you mentioned Maxwell Powers. You mentioned where you know him for, James. I'm more familiar with him as a voiceover narrator for a lot of NHK programming, too. So he does a lot of stuff for news programs, current affairs shows, documentaries.
And I can see that with the voice. Yeah, the voice.
And dare I say it, even something that could be as part of those Cool Japan initiatives by the government.
And it was interesting. They had a bit of banter, and they were going back and forth between English and Japanese between him and Sally, where they were talking about just being in the booth for the first time, and they were doing the anime style voiceover in Japan. And the going to the microphone and back and forth is like, did you bump into someone the first time? It was kind of funny them talking about that. These little quirks.
I missed some of that, but I'm not surprised to hear that conversation too. But it was, as I said, it was interesting. I will say, okay, just in front of the extent of what I watched, I only watched bits and pieces over the 6 hours. Yeah, I saw a little bit of the Demon Slayer stuff, bit of the Sword Art thing. It looked like an interview between two of the voices there. The Demon Slayer thing, two of the voice actors, including the guy who plays Tanjiro, was featured in that. and I think one of the producers, and then I forgot who the other voice actor played, but it was a major character in the movie. I remember seeing that. I admit I missed the Madoka Magica and Fate Grand Order bits. As for the concerts, I only saw like half of the first part because the concerts happened at the beginning and at the end. So I missed a good portion of the first concert, but I know that the ending to Aldona Zero was played, which I really liked. I remember hearing that during Songs of Tokyo, and I really enjoyed that. And yeah, at the end, Clarice, Aimer, and Lisa played, and you know what everyone was waiting for at the end there, in the last concert, right? Lisa was there, and it's in true save the best for last fashion. The very last thing you saw was her doing a live performance of Demon Slayer's theme song at 3:15 a.m. It was the very last thing. That was the payoff. That might have been the payoff for a lot of fans to see her perform it, and you had to wait that late for it. And I had trouble waking up this morning.
As I said, it's crazy when usually we're in a good time zone, Mike, but this time not so much. Even as I said, that Falcom 40th anniversary concert, same thing happened. It was funny. They were selling goods just as that thing was going on, and I wanted to get the T-shirt. Guess what? Wake up the next morning, not even there anymore.
Oh, gone. Gone.
That's how it works.
Give me a thought here. Just two thoughts. And any of you can jump in on this one. One, does this feel like what IFF would be if it happened in person? Because my memory of IFF when it happened in Toronto, it just felt like it became in many respects a promotional train for Aniplex Works when we had all the Fates Day voice actors show up, and then they did a demonstration, a voice acting demonstration.
I'm not sure on the concert if all of them were related to Aniplex as well, because I know Kevin went to the concert as well.
Kevin, you have a thought?
There was not all of them were, no.
So you can't. Yeah, well, IFF is really still ultimately its own thing. It's just that it felt to me like if I went to IFF, it would have this tone to me.
It's just that IFF did have support from Aniplex, so there were Aniplex guests like Asuka, and they did play the Fate Stay Night movies, so you definitely felt Aniplex's presence there, but it was not just Aniplex because I believe it was.
Oh no, there was
because Megumi Nakajima was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know there was a bunch of other movies shown.
I guess it all depends, Mike, because I guess the big guests, and it does happen at other cons across North America sometimes, is that sometimes they'll reach out to a company or a company will help them out and it'll be a part of their promotional cost where they want to promote a certain series coming up or a certain movie or whatever, and they'll send guests to that con and it'll be like a big event for them at that convention. That just happened to be what they were promoting at IFF at that time was the Fate State Night Heaven's Feel movie 2.
Mm-hmm. And I forgot the name of the other movie that was shown.
They had Made in the Abyss, the first movie, which was from Sentai, and Sentai had helped provide that, and it was the first recap movie.
I remember that being a pretty big thing too that weekend. But as I said, that's one takeaway I had coming away from it, and it's also just, let's be honest, my own limited experience with conventions. Right? You guys have probably seen more conventions than I have, at least a bigger variety, having gone to AXs or Otakons or K-pop fests, Kevin.
But in my mind, Mike, it wasn't really convention per se. Like any of those things we saw at Aniplex Online the year before or this year, where it's kind of more the Japanese aesthetic in my mind because they were going Japan and the outside Japanese audience for English. And it was kind of like those things you'd see as extras on Blu-rays. Like you have maybe some concerts or videos of the artist singing the song, or maybe you had these different talk shows with the different voice actors and stuff like that talking about the show they were in and stuff like that. So, or they had the premiere of the show like at a theater or at a screening, and they were showing the voice actors doing introductions and talking about their roles and stuff like that. That's kind of what it felt like when we were going through all of that. And it's very different than, say, comparative Funimation did their convention again this year, like they did last year, that Funimation Con, which kind of had the template of what we do in North America, where there was some premieres of different shows, but there were also actual panels there. You know what I mean? What we think of as panels in North America.
Okay. So, yeah, I understood. This was a little bit more standard for the way Japan would do it. Right?
Yeah, in my mind. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
the others want to chime in or.
No, it's just, as I said, it's that I came away with that with it felt how it felt, and that's just a thought, right? It's not meant to be accusing or anything. Just this is just the feeling I had and what I could relate it to, right? Okay, yes or no? I'm gonna play a yes no with you guys for a couple seconds here.
No.
And that could be the answer because it's about Hiroyuki Sawano.
Oh, in that case, it's a yes.
Okay, what do you think I'm going to ask?
I have no idea.
Hiroyuki Sawano has become a noteworthy composer. Maybe I'm not totally sure if that's totally justified, rightfully or wrongfully, but he's noted. Where does he sit amongst some of the great composers for anime? Would he sit with, does he sit anywhere close? First of all, he probably doesn't sit anywhere close to names like Joe Hisashi or Yoko Kanno, but where does he sit?
He's getting up there.
Not far down, or is it further down than I think?
I think not too far down. He was involved in some pretty decent stuff. Like, it does depend, like, at least from what my friends have said in terms of their opinion, there are the occasional works where you do feel like he's, I don't want to say mailing it in, but you can tell that it may not be something he's particularly enthused about, and it feels a little more run-of-the-mill. But then you also get some of the stuff that he's done for, say, Attack on Titan, which is some pretty good stuff. And he's also worked with some of my favorite singers, like Ame.
Ame and Lisa were, of course, mentioned there.
Yes.
So and he is prominent in the first concert. So Riona as well.
Did
right?
Ame perform at all?
Yeah, she did at the end.
Oh, frig.
Ame performed at the end.
I probably didn't make it in terms of being. I don't know if you can rewatch those or not, but yeah, I didn't.
Well, it streams up. Stream is up.
Okay, I'm watching that later.
Yeah, it's it's there because it's a 6-hour stream, 6.5-hour stream.
Hopefully they keep it up for a long time.
Yeah, unlike Niku Fest.
Well, there's some others that are online on YouTube too. I think I mentioned to you, Mike, like I mentioned the 40th anniversary Falcom concert. It's still up on New Game Plus, and I think NIS America probably has it up on their YouTube channel. And a lot of the songs they did have from Falcom's history, it was mostly from East and from Trails games, and that's fine, and it was good. And then they also had some Trails announcements for the fans, so that we're getting the rest of those. It's the Crossbell arc, which is East Trails from Zero, and then Trails to Azure. And those ones, like Zero's coming in fall 22, Azure's coming in 2023, and then Trails in to the Ravine, they announced as well that's coming 2023, and then they had a spin-off coming in 2023 as well to the rest of the world. So North America and Europe, which was, what did they call it? The Legend of Natuya Boundless Trails, which is a spin-off. But the Crossbow ones everyone was excited about, and they're bringing on a fan translator that had done the Azure and the Zero games. Basically how Geoff had done it is they said, here's the patch to the Chinese games for those games that you have to legally buy. And if you legally buy it, then you can apply that patch to them and stuff like that. Now they've taken the patches off, but basically they made a deal with NIS and they're going to help in the localization process and use their localization as a base, which will be nice. Now all the
That
fans,
is
of course, as you know, are like, how can it take so long, right? But
I
that's what
read
it takes. You gotta get everything up.
Go ahead,
I
Kevin.
gotta say, James, I read some of the reactions from the localization team, and they were just so ecstatic. Like, I can feel the enthusiasm and how they were just so happy that they were acknowledged, let alone being involved in the work now officially. Great.
And that
Okay.
felt a lot better than some of the fan reactions and stuff like that. Some of them a little quick at it, to say the least. And
Fans like,
and as I said, some of them are like, why is it not so quick? All you're doing, you're not dubbing it. It's like you're just saying, and it's like, well, you know, you gotta go through this. You gotta make it consistent with the official translation. You gotta do marketing. You gotta do packaging. You gotta do a lot of things to get a video game from infancy to on the shelf, so to speak. And they're doing a lot of SKUs because that's going to be PS4, Switch, and PC. And then people made the joke about it being a PS4 game being released in 2023, of course.
of course.
And then
Okay.
the last one, just to be quick, and I know Geoff definitely watched this one, and it's still online on, I think, the official Sonic YouTube, is the Sonic 30th anniversary concert, and that was just a fantastic event. I watched with people like Sonic Orchestra, like official orchestra, doing orchestrations of the 2D games. Then they went all rock on us when we got to the 3D timeline, so to speak, with the band there. And then they kind of merged together for a few songs, like Live and Learn, I think, was the song of the night in my mind. But I could be wrong. Geoff could probably correct me.
I think that like everyone was waiting for Live and Learn. I kind of like I watched the Twitter reactions after the fact, and it was really interesting to see people like get frustrated and angry when they sort of skipped over it a couple times. But I think it really was a really fantastic concert. We had the composer or half of Dreams Come True have a little spiel in kind of the intermission, talking about the the experience of writing for one of these iconic games, but not really many people realizing that he was involved in there, and announcing that a vocal version of Green Hill Zone is going to be released soon, which has already been featured in commercials apparently in Japan, but a full album, or a full, at least a single release. But I think the most interesting thing about that concert was how I thought that it really emphasized how different Sega approaches fans and derivative works compared to, say, Nintendo. Like if you look at Nintendo, if there's ever like a fan work, it's like, oh no, mamma mia, you're making the money off of that. Maybe you take it down. Versus
God.
Well done.
versus like Sega's
Well done.
like Sega, like in the Sonic concert, Nathan Sharp, or Nate Wants to Battle, who is a video game and anime cover artist, like was involved in this concert. So like on Sega's front, it's like, hey, want to come to my birthday? Come on. And it's like, it was amazing to me. Just, and Sega's had this reputation for a while with Sonic Mania, being made by former fan game makers. And don't get me wrong, I've seen the Zelda concert live. It's a beautiful symphony presentation. Nintendo does also celebrate its own art, but the integration of the fan community, I thought, was something really, really great in that concert in particular.
It's just sort of interesting how Sega has kind of redone itself since it got out of the console business a couple decades ago. It like everyone was so worried about it in the long run, but they just said we'll just focus on the stuff we know we do well. And in many respects, I think they've enhanced it, too. Okay. One last thing, okay, before we move on. Yeah, let's acknowledge Lockdown. James, what do you want to say about Lockdown before we move on to the bullets?
I think we mostly said it looks like a really good lineup. They actually do have a Japanese guest with Tatsuhiko Takimoto, who created Welcome to the NHK, and that's going to be a recorded Q&A that JP is doing with him, and that's going to be on the Sunday, July 11th at 2 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were a lot of interesting panels and different guests, like they had Lindsay Leverage on Friday from Anime News Network. They had Helen McCarthy on Saturday, July the 10th, as well as having Erica Friedman talking about Yuri on Saturday as well. So they have some different educational and thought-provoking panels from thought-provoking guests, of course. And they have some other panels in between that people loving all the time. Like I know Mike Toole is going to be there Friday night at 9:30 p.m. with a giant robo panel. And then there's many others. So I'm sure people that had fun last time will have fun again, and it looks very packed.
It was, I have to say, the reveal video he did, one was delayed, but it was actually kind of entertaining. It's entertaining in the way, if you've gotten used to how JP likes to talk, we've had him obviously on this show a couple times. He is so smooth with the way he likes to talk about things. His voice, the way he talks. And in the reveal video, which is I think roughly an hour long, cut out the some of the beginning, he goes into the story about how he got the creator of Welcome to the NHK. Which I thought was a really funny story. He just said, okay, I noticed some of his stuff was in English, so I just emailed him and asked if he wanted to do this. He just wrote back and said, sure. You look like you're reputable.
And he's like, we can do this just as long as we have it recorded and stuff like that, and it isn't live. And he worked with him, and
that was the only stipulation. It couldn't be live, but I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's
I guess he wasn't as like his English, I'm sure, is okay, but maybe not comfortable in a live setting. That's okay. This still sounds like an awesome get. And it sounds like JP is really nervous and fanboying.
And I think even his second in command, because remember, Tony was with him during the reveals and that, and even he said he couldn't believe that was happening. So
yeah, and he's trying to calm him down, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think JP is nervous, really nervous to do that.
Well, I'm guessing the nerves have subsided a bit now because he said he recorded it, I think, yesterday on the July 3rd or the July 2nd, the night of, who knows.
Mm-hmm. So we'll hear the results of that next week. But it's just funny because here he was when he appeared on our show back in April, wondering if this was even worth doing. And then he just bit the bullet, decided to do it and see what would come out. And he was still kind of, I think, concerned that he'd have trouble topping the first one. And that's not a bad lineup at all. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, like as he said, they cut off one panel on the Friday and Saturday for the late night. But then, as he said, he limited everyone to one panel this time, unlike last time. And he did reach out to some different people, and they were happy to actually come aboard. And he was like, wow, this is great. And he was able to fill out the lineup slowly but surely.
Mm-hmm. So there's... Yeah, give the guy credit, and we'll talk a little bit more about Lockdown next episode when it happens, and we'll all see what we can see, right? But yeah, he should really stop beating himself up. He did a lot of good last year, and he's doing some good now for this, because in the end, people still can't get to places like Anime Matsuri or in-person conventions, and that's going to still be the case for just a little longer, even when some of the conventions return. Almost certainly the big ones will have a cap. I could foresee it happening for Anime North for the first time in a decade or something like that. Anime North's probably going to have a cap. That's just for safety reasons. For COVID safety reasons, more specifically. And I think just about every other convention will see that for at least into 2022. So there'll be something there for online. Although I know there's this bigger discussion, and that's coming back to the whole Aniplex Online. Remember when we talked about that Anime Business article with JP at the time? The look of conventions in the future?
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of made me ask a little bit about that. The Project Anime, that's what it was. Which was really just a small piece. But it had me thinking about that. Okay. I think we should hold our... Do we have any further convention talk, or we'll just wait and see how the rest of the convention season goes, and we'll talk about it as it happens?
We'll see how it shakes out.
Okay, because how much time have we used? Okay, 15 minutes. Almost 50 minutes, I think. You want to do the bullets?
Do it.
Sure,
We got a
can
few.
do a few.
Yeah, we can do quite a bit. And I think we set up as many as 6, I believe. So here we go. It's the bullets, little things that can become big things. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the Olympics first? I mean, that's the most obvious thing, I guess.
Is that still happening?
Believe it or not, right? The Olympics are still set for a couple weeks from now.
The only thing they're questioning now, I guess, on that certain spectrum for those people are, will there be fans in the stands or not?
Mm-hmm. Well,
they should do what they did in the bubble, the NBA bubble. Get digital fans.
Something like that.
Well, what do you want? Athletes are going out of the village, that's for sure.
Okay, so what do we want to say about the Olympics? Because there was some talk this week. I wouldn't say controversy, but there was some talk earlier this week about backlash the organizing committee is facing for the use of anime characters in the promotion of the upcoming Olympics.
And that was the tough thing, right? And even some of the companies admit, like Tezuka Productions, in regards to Adam and stuff like that, admitted that. And that was in regards to Rumiko Tezuka, daughter of Osamu Tezuka, tweeting out about the situation that a lot of these contracts were done before the pandemic. So obviously they never foresaw this happening to any of them. And a lot of the people that were arguing, of course, said it felt out of character for characters with a strong sense of justice, like Adam or Usagi, as they said, to support the games during a pandemic. And as they said, like, the contracts are already locked in, so it may be hard to break them, unfortunately, and no one would ever foresee this, right? But you do agree it doesn't look great for them, right? And they admit that.
It's so odd optic, but yeah, it's one of those, you couldn't see it coming, couldn't be helped. Geoff? I know you said as much, Geoff.
Yeah, and, we have to remember, like, this, when all of the partnerships started to be announced, like the Olympics being in Japan was started with the Prime Minister coming out of a warp pipe, I think, from Mario. And then,
yes, it's worth mentioning that was part of the promotion. The promotion was there from the start.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I think connecting pop culture and animation and things like that has always kind of been, in the plans on Japan's side, at least. I'm not sure about the Olympic Committee. But I think that, you have the arguments that it was out of character, as James mentioned, might be in character for Goku. Might be some sort of reckless challenge. I think it suits the abandoning small child superhero.
I was just on a personal level. I was just waiting to see the Akira characters. I think that would have been that's a missed opportunity. Don't you think, James? Don't you think that's a missed opportunity?
Everyone's been talking about that missed opportunity.
Especially
now that
my life
is everything, right?
I fully admit my life is full of missed opportunities, but this one takes the cake for me. So
I think that I think that the fact that these deals are made so far in advance is best exemplified by the fact that Jibanyan from Yokai Watch is still shown as a Olympic mascot. Because I guess in 2018, when they were still hashing out these deals, they probably had a lot more confidence in the Yokai Watch brand than history has played out for it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that was the one that now feels out of place now, doesn't it? Because the bubbles
Mhm.
kind of unfortunately popped for them in my mind.
It was huge when I was in Japan, and I think even subsequent years, kind of when I visited, like around 2018. But I think once you kind of pass that 2017 year, I think it just completely dissolved, and that's probably even being generous.
Maybe
That's a
that's
shame.
part of the thing about using pop culture as a promoting mechanism for something like this, because time it's very fleeting.
And
Pop
like
culture by its own nature is so just very fleeting, right?
Astro Boy, Goku, Sailor Moon, to some extent Luffy, I think those were safe choices. But the Pretty Cure of the Day, and things like Yokai Watch was a little bit more weird to me, at
Or at
least.
least, at the very least, not as big as shelf life.
Yeah, riskier, I guess, too.
That's a good way to put it. So the thing is, the Olympics are still going to happen. I'm not going to say that's right or wrong. It's just it's happening, dude. Right?
Yeah,
So sit
Awesome.
back and enjoy.
They're gonna go.
See how just realize the lights you see in the stands during the opening ceremonies. Chances are those are just lights that are affixed to the chairs, much like they are at Montreal Canadiens games this week.
Well, they gotta try and make like 4% of that money back rather than not make any of it back.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, because the IOC obviously has committed the next games for Paris and LA. This might be the last chance. And you feel, because so much money has already been invested, and wasn't the IOC's money that was invested into this.
Exactly.
But they have almost all of the control in this scenario. And that, like, we can go on and on about the IOC themselves, but that's probably another story, and probably another podcast altogether. Pretty sure you can find one out there that'll talk better at length about it. Maybe have Brian Williams as a guest.
No, just wait for John Oliver to cover it.
Oh, which I think he did already.
He might cover it again.
I think a couple weeks ago. Yeah, way to go. You knew that too, didn't you? Didn't you, Mo? Okay.
Quick question, actually, for Geoff. You taught in Japan. What grade did you teach, out of curiosity?
Primarily it was middle school, but I did have elementary school weeks, so I'd say maybe 30% of my time was grade 1 to 6, as well as 7 to 9.
How much, in terms of like the dominance, like in terms of between like Yokai Watch and Pokemon, how much of it would you say was the ratio of which franchises the kids were into? Because I feel like there was a point in time where I heard how younger Japanese children were more into Yokai Watch because they knew adults were into Pokemon, and then they didn't want to be into what the adults were into.
I don't think that was a huge factor, because I think that a lot of the Yokai Watch fans were so young that they probably wouldn't even conceptualize that kind of thinking. I do know by grade 4, like when I would draw Pokemon on the board for them, all of them were super enthusiastic and into Pokemon. But like in stores and that, you would see little kids doing the Yokai Watch dance out front of certain displays and everything. So I think that I think I had a grade 2 or 3 class do the Yokai Watch dance for me, or they were practicing and showed me. So I think that it skewed a bit younger, but I think that was probably part of that is it wasn't an established franchise, so there wasn't that generational powerhouse that Pokemon has, and part of it was probably intentional.
Interesting. That's cool to know.
Okay. All right, so where do you want to go next? That was just a little bit there. Which way do you want to go next? Oh, by the way, how was the new Gundam movie? I know there's a Gundam Hathaway movie on Netflix.
Yeah, man, Hathaway's pretty good.
You liked it? Plot-wise.
It's very pretty.
This is okay. This is starting to sound like some of the first reviews I'm hearing.
I think
Go on.
The storyline had great graphics.
Well,
oh man, no, I was gonna say one of the reviews I read literally said how the background, the graphics were good. What's her face was hot. GG was hot, and then it's like. Sorry, my bad. And it was like comparing it to the Seed review, being like, "Yeah, the graphics were good, and what's her face was hot."
One way to put it. Okay,
but
it's that was this week, right? So
yeah, no, I was just gonna say that the first 16 minutes, there's like an action sequence that starts off the movie. It's a 3-part movie. I feel like Netflix should put that on YouTube and promote the ever living shit out of it. It's very relatable. It's anyone can watch it. It's like one of those hijacking scenes in movies and so forth, but it's done so beautifully that I feel like, you know, maybe you can kick some people off into like being into Gundam and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know what else to add to it. I haven't seen it myself. Although I guess we're talking a little streaming news on that note. Funimation's finally adding Robotech to the mix.
Has hell frozen open yet?
Well, we don't know what defining what would freeze over hell, but I know that they did announce. There was an announcement concerning putting Robotech on the Funimation streaming service,
and they are going to announce it. They announced it was coming physically, so the Macross Saga is coming in September, and then the other two sagas are coming in November and December. But I think they also said a very special edition through the Funimation shop only, which I think is like very expensive, is coming on September, and it has all the sagas, plus it has all these different things in it too. Like I think there's a Roy Fokker like figure in there and some other stuff.
Yeah, and just going back to Funimation for just another second. Sorry, and what do we want to say about Robotech here?
It's the big money cow, so they know where the money is, and that's where they're starting.
On that note, remember we talked a little bit about Demon Slayer movie being exclusive to Funimation, right? We mentioned that 2 weeks ago. Yeah, paid subscription only. Premium only available for premium subscribers, so not even on the free tier. So this doesn't really surprise me. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the only thing you get on free is the simulcast and stuff like that. If they add something with everything at once, then it's only usually for the premium subscribers.
Mm-hmm. But that fact just didn't surprise me. I thought I'd at least mention Macross and Gundam, since obviously we've had that discussion about missed opportunities again.
We'll see who else wants to play in the Macross universe and with the companies in Japan, and see if more than just Funimation wants to license any of that stuff going forward. But time will tell, right?
Right. Always does.
Guess we'll see which ones people think they'll be able to make some money on. But I think we knew Robotech was going to be first anyway. And I guess this is the first time it's been on Blu-ray, because last time I think it came out was from A&E, of all people, and that was on DVD.
Well, now. Okay, so let's move on. Some Rumiko Takahashi talk. Some of this was kind of cute. So, over the last month, Rumiko Takahashi has increased her online presence. She recently started a Twitter account. And about a month ago, she put up a really funny look at her workday. Sounds like quite the workday when we looked at it, according to Sora News 24, and I think a few other places. But she posted a copy of her daily schedule when she's doing art, when she's actually working. So, let's go through it just quickly. Before noon, do the inking for 7 or 8 pages of character artwork. Noon, have lunch, do housework. 4 p.m., read, do housework. 7 p.m., eat dinner, do housework. 9 p.m., start drawing new artwork. And then all the way through to 9 a.m. the next morning, temporarily stop working, go to bed. Noon, eat lunch, do housework. 4 p.m., start drawing. 7 p.m., take a break, eat dinner. 8 p.m., start drawing again.
Day after that.
And then go the day after that, 13 hours straight. 9 a.m., finish her work. This is her schedule. This is quite a...
And I'm sure she has assistants
Like a
too,
40
so
hour.
it makes you wonder when the assistants come in there at those points.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this is dedication, dude. It sounds so funny to hear this story. And she's been, talking a little bit more these days, it sounds like. But should we be shocked at this, or should we say par for the course for... Well, it's par for her course, but par for the course for any mangaka?
Pretty similar.
It sounds shocking, but...
Because one thing to consider is that was over the course of 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
He also has to plan the stories for these works.
That's why she gives
takes
herself those
time
breaks
too.
over the days.
Yeah, that takes time.
Over that 2-day period. It's an interesting looking schedule. Some call it shocking. It's just... I just looked at it and said, okay, this is just how her mind flows. And right now, she's one of those that can chart her own course right now, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, I imagine she doesn't get much input from the editorial staff.
Or she's not forced into anything. Or,
yeah.
I think she's at that point. She's doesn't have to have those conversations anymore.
I feel like they just let her do whatever she wants. Mind you, you could debate that perhaps maybe she could seek more editorial input because, you'd think that some of those series could have been a little shorter perhaps. Because how well did Rinne really do? And how well did I don't know. How is Mao doing right now? Mao is not too long at the moment, but because that's her newest work. But like even Inuyasha, did it really need to be that long?
So
56 volumes or 57 volumes.
Can we is she untouchable in many respects? Well, I think when the mics were off, we've given a George Lucas type comparison.
Yes.
Chart your own course, right? Yes or no? Is she that on that level?
I think so.
Anybody else who has that? Who would have that type of control? Because remember, if you remember the I made fun of that episode of Midnight Diner last episode, and what was depicted: Gaia falling deeper and deeper into madness because he sucked, and a wannabe manga writer trying to be steered a certain way.
I can think of a few artists that have that kind of control now. Hikaru Togashi, creator of Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter.
I'm pretty sure Kentaro Miura had that.
I imagine Kentaro Miura did have that, yes. I think Takehiko Inoue, creator of Vagabond and Slam Dunk and Real, probably has that creative control. Even nowadays, you have, say, probably even some of the more recent established creators, recent in air quotes, because they've been more established as of late, but for example, like any of the popular Shonen Jump creators that have at least one successful title under their belt, like one
almost
title,
quote unquote generational almost. Would Ken Akamatsu have that?
Perhaps so.
Right, because I'm not totally sure. Like he had an It title back in the aughts. He had a couple It titles back in the aughts.
Well, even UQ Holder is still going pretty strong right now, which was the quasi Negima sequel.
So yeah, it's just I wonder who has that, since editors and of course just the market forces just make a certain demand, but some people have built enough cred. They can do whatever the hell they want.
Hiro Mashima, perhaps.
Okay.
Creator
that
of
list goes there.
Fairy Tail and Rave Master.
And we can. If anyone's listening out there, give me some thoughts as to who has that type of control. Who has the Rumiko Takahashi, George Lucas, Inui, chart your own path type of control?
Well, in the anime, probably Mamoru Hosoda at this point.
So you would say Shinkai, certainly Miyazaki.
Well,
I think that's almost a completely different level.
Yeah,
that's a different level.
That's true.
And that's to the extreme, because he keeps on retiring. Then he's like, "No, I'm not really retiring."
Yeah, he'll basically, when will I take? Yeah, we'll take the break when I want to take a break, right? Okay. On that note of Rumiko Takahashi, and this is a nice little follow-up. 35th anniversary. To celebrate the 35th anniversary of Maison Ikoku, a figurine of Kyoko was released in her wedding dress, in her wedding kimono. Really nice looking figurine when you look at the pictures, and it comes with detachable parts for both, depicting both her hair and the hood she wore for that dress. All yours if you want to pay $211
American.
Convert $211 US to Canadian.
Isn't that like $6,000 or something?
It's like $260.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. So 211, which I guess would be. I don't know how that compares with how figures are supposed to cost these days. I'm gonna guess it's up there, but hey, it's quality, I guess.
One would hope.
One would hope. Okay, you have a thought on this one, James? Since you're the one who steered me towards this one, and I think it's a nice touch. Personally, everyone here knows what my feelings are concerning Maison Ikoku. What's your take on it, since you gave it to me, James?
I guess it was interesting thinking that we talk about it being the marketing machine, right? For anime and manga and stuff like that, and figures and merch are tied to it, but sometimes they will take a look back, I guess, at these seminal series, and that they will celebrate them. So 35 years after the end of Maison Ikoku, they are finally doing a figure of Kyoko, basically in the wedding dress, and this doesn't look like it has been done before. It looks like a very well done figure, high end type figure. You can change her up a bit with having the hood on or the hood off, and it would be very something nice to have on a collector's shelf, I think. You can tell they put a lot of love and thought into it.
Yeah, that's interesting. You brought up an interesting point. Older series being depicted in figures these days, at least new figures now. That's an interesting point, though. It looks nice. If I had the means to display and show that off and afford it, buy your $90 IKEA shelf for the $211 figure. I consider it. It's just, it does look really nice, and otherwise I'd really be interested if I was a few years younger. Priorities, dude. Priorities.
What to get you for Christmas?
Gee, thanks. Okay, moving on. The Eva Rebuild movies. They announced. When was this announced for Amazon Prime? Earlier this week or last week?
It was this week. It was actually on Canada Day.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm trying to go through my what I have here, but everything's my tabs are all a mess. So, well, what do you want to say about this?
I guess it's interesting who picked it up and who Kara decided they were going to finally give the license to for all those movies, and it also confirms that I guess Funimation does not have the license anymore for the first 3 movies, because
Nope,
Amazon Prime has the first 3 movies, and they also have the new one, the 4th movie, which is Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.00 Grace Upon a Time. And the interesting part is it's a new version of this final film that they're releasing on it that they had just put into Japanese theaters again, that has minor revisions and some animation sequences, they said, and some other small changes. So it's kind of crazy that usually they're so fine on these films, but Anno and the team went back and still did things on it.
I want to know the bidding process for Amazon winning this, because I felt like with the original series being on Netflix that maybe Netflix might have won this out, but like why did Amazon get it? How did Amazon get it?
Well, I think the other thing was, remember, Netflix got streaming, but they didn't get physical, because remember, G-Kids and all the anime got physical license for the series for Evangelion. So that's the question mark of, do they have physical and do they have theatrical? Because it's going to be interesting to see if it will get a theatrical release, because I thought that was one of the big things Kara wanted from Funimation, is they wanted it in theaters. So that's an interesting point there.
It's just like the only impression I have is it just seems so historically EVA. One part of the property goes to one place, another part goes to another place, another part goes to another place. We had that originally. TV series ADV, movies manga, TV series Netflix, rebuild movies Amazon.
And I guess the other thing is, it's basically plowed out to everyone. So they've obviously been working on a lot of these different language versions simultaneously, because they said it'll be streamed on Amazon Prime with dubs in 10 languages, including English, French, German, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, and some others. And they also said it will stream with Japanese subtitles in 28 languages. So there was a lot of work probably put in there. And I'm guessing Kara was overseeing it all, just like we saw for all things Ava. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, sure. I mean, people are already fearing how that translation will look. Come on, people. Okay, on that note, just to tie this just a little bit together, Hikaru Utada. June was Pride Month here in Toronto, and I think in a lot of other places. Hikaru Utada last week came out as non-binary. It was last week, right?
I think it was the 25th or the 26th.
Yeah, it was around there, 25th, 26th. Yeah, with time zones, it might have been, like for us, it looked like the 26th, but she might have been 25th because she might have been in Japan, I believe. Or
I know you want to mention this a little bit more at length, Geoff. What's on your mind concerning this?
I think that the biggest thing with Hikaru Utada's coming out is the significance it has for LGBT plus visibility in Japan. Utada is relatively well known, famous. If you look at Kingdom Hearts, probably in particular. Their coming out was in conjunction with the Evangelion movie. It was kind of a casual thing where I think they were mentioning their stuffed teddy bear was gay, and then said, I myself am non-binary. But I think that if I've done a little bit of research in there, and there's been sort of less conclusive hints and so forth over the past few years. I think both in 2016, there was, I think, a tweet that said, "What makes you think I'm straight?" Earlier, I think 2006 or 7, there was an interview where they talked a lot about, confusion and like not sure if they're identifying as a man or a woman and things like that. But I think the best part of this is that a lot of Japanese news agencies and so forth had to do some research and figure out, oh, okay, what does non-binary mean? Sort of re-educate on LGBT as an acronym and a term. I've seen a lot of kind of screenshots and photos of Japanese televisions with LGBT in Roman characters all along the top. And I think in a country that when you look at non-binary and trans representatives, like in as far as the fictional characters or characters that are being played by actors, the sort of old conservative Stephen Colbert type of character, they're either clowns or mysterious and alien. And it's funny I say mysterious, but Utada's prefix that they've mentioned that they like is Miss, spelled MYS, short for mystery, which I think is kind of charming. I don't know if it will catch on in the community, but
I heard what about MX?
Yeah, I heard
Yeah,
MX was
I've heard-
one too that you discovered as well.
Yeah, so mix is something that they mentioned, sounded cool. I don't know if, much like Utada's pronouns, so I've been using they, them pronouns for Utada right now just because I've done a lot of research to try to, verify this, and there hasn't been any confirmation of that. And, part of that is, probably language. I mean, she was born Japanese American, or they were born Japanese American, and you know, but have lived in Japan for so long. I'm guessing that they're probably thinking along Japanese pronoun lines, which are quite different. But I don't think that they've claimed mix as their own. I think they might in the future. But there has been, they've said, oh, this is a cool term. This is what I've been looking for a long time in my life. But then I think more recently, they've kind of made an Instagram or Twitter post with the MYS. But mix is what a lot of non-binary people in a professional context will end up using. And I do want to, I guess, mention that they could come out and say that they still prefer the more feminine pronouns of like she, her. The like non-binary doesn't mean it's automatically a they, them pronoun. That's the most common, and I think if you look at their Wikipedia page, all instances of she, her have been replaced with they, them for now. Kind of as a better safe than sorry kind of mechanism for the time being. But there's wide varieties of pronoun and honorifics usage that people will want to use, and Utada hasn't made a lot of that, I guess, public or available at this point.
We tied Hikaru Utada in so quickly because they performed the theme song to the Eva Rebuild movies. And they performed songs for Kingdom Hearts.
They also did the theme song, the opening song for the most recent anime that's still on Crunchyroll, To Your Eternity, and that was Pink Blood. So, and they released that as a single recently.
And I think the gaming community has taken note of this one, and I think there's an article that Geoff gave us as to why this could be significant in that community.
And I think it connects even to the Japanese side of it. So there's lots of different intersections, because I think if you look at like the North American fans, I've seen tweets that have said that Utada's music has raised a generation of LGBT teens and now adults anyways. So, a lot of people are saying that, oh, this tracks, this makes sense. I think Utada's mentioned that one of their songs has been previously, like it was about a homosexual love. So I think that, there's maybe some validation happening, some connection for sure. But if you look at the gaming community, I think things like RPGs and Kingdom Hearts, it's probably a much safer place for the community than more competitive games or the online aspect of things. But it's kind of one of those, both in the gamer space and I think maybe the Japanese space, where it's a little step forward as far as safety and acceptance and awareness. I don't expect the shooter online crowd to stop their homophobia and racism and all those other stereotypes that I think are still there. I think you can bleed or make transitions into the Gamergate incidents of the past. I don't think any of these things are going away, but I do think that because Utada is so well known and well loved, I think it's seen as a a herald or an excellent stepping stone for improvements, even though there's a long way to go.
Okay. Well, no, it's interesting. A couple years ago, I'm going to mention this one more time. NHK World did a documentary about a recent high school graduate who completed their gender change, their sex change. This person went from, I believe, man to woman, completed the change, and realized they couldn't feel it as a woman either. And so by the end of this person was now somewhere teetering in the middle, so really non-binary. And it was funny because the friends in high school were very accepting of them through all of this, right? It's not he or she, we just call this person by their name. Think of it as, let's just say Mako. It's not he or she, it's Mako. But it was really interesting because the documentary also documented their complications in trying to refit into society because, on forms, in formal government forms, there's male or female, but nothing else. It's so rigid that way. And people don't get things just on that on really what could be a technicality. Like, we've had this discussion before too, right, Geoff?
Yeah, and I
versions of this.
Yeah, and I think that when you enter the Japanese side of things, it is different from the North American context, because I think maybe some people in Utada's sort of comments after the fact, after coming out on stream, mentioned, oh, maybe it's just a frustration with the the paperwork system in Japan and labeling like that. And I think it's a separate but connected issue. I think that there is still, even if you look at the binary genders or sexes, I think that there's still an imbalance. Not even to mention non-binary or trans individuals. So I think that it's so difficult with paperwork and sort of the official or organized life in Japan. I think that Japan is famously slow to change.
In these senses, yes.
In a lot of senses, but especially in these senses. As I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, it's interesting because, compared to somewhere like the US, it's not, I don't think it's nearly as malicious as a lot of the sexism or homophobia or transphobia is in North America or England or the Europe in general. It's just more this rigidity or sort of general conservatism, like not political, but let's keep things as they are. Let's keep the gears moving as they should. There's less of that hate, but it's still an incredibly difficult barrier for so many people.
Okay. Well, I just to end it off, and we're running low on time now. Hikaru Utada did back in the day, like I think 2008, did a podcast interview with a not so I wouldn't, not at least a name I would have recognized then or now, and they did it in English. I should find that interview, and maybe we can post that up here. But one of those, it's an interesting moment, I think, for history, especially in the history of LGBTQ plus rights when it comes to Japan. Or is there something else anyone else wanted to add?
I have a couple things to bring up quickly.
Okay, just quickly.
So, the Blue Exorcist manga will be going on hiatus for the next several months because Kazue Kato is going to be drawing a separate work for a few months. I believe it was an adaptation of a Fuyumi Ono novel, and people familiar with 12 Kingdoms will know, or Ghost Hunt will be familiar with Fuyumi Ono. So I think it won't be back till like early next year for Blue Exorcist. And Blue Exorcist has been on hiatus at various points, but at least in this case, it seems like it's not. Well, not seen. It's not due to fatigue.
Yeah, that's one of those weird cases. Not something you'd see.
Because she did take a couple months off. I think in February or in March. She took 2 months off early in the year. Also, there was a bunch of manga that got announced in the last several days by both Kodansha and Seven Seas. Way too many to name like off the bat, but I'll just name some that I was interested in. So I actually was surprised to see Seven Seas announce a Daisuke Igarashi work. Viz put out his Children of the Sea manga out several years ago. This one's called Witches, and his art is very striking, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, Seven Seas licensed Darling in the Franxx, which I'm like, oh god. That's actually, anyone familiar with the anime may or may not think that was a bit of a problematic work. It was pretty divisive when it was airing. Also, on the Kodansha front, one that caught my attention was Wand Dance. That's coming out next year, and it will be in print from the looks of it. And that's about a boy who encounters this girl in his school that's just a dancer, and kind of catches her dancing on her own, and then he kind of gets smitten with her, and then ends up like joining her in this hip hop dance club.
Well, now.
Yeah, so that seems right up my alley in terms of like kind of like a quirky coming of age kind of story. And Kodansha also announced a few Shuzo Oshimi manga, so the creator of Flowers of Evil and Inside Mari. And also some of Osamu Tezuka's works are getting reprinted. So because a lot of that stuff that Vertigo put out was coming out of print. So like Apollo Song and Moo, actually not Moo, it's Apollo Song, Princess Knight, and Ode to Kirihito are going to get reprinted.
And Bama is coming out early next year too from Vertical Kodansha as well in print.
Yeah.
And that's Osamu Tezuka as well. So that's the first new one they've done in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Ed Chavez has pointed out how like they eventually stopped putting Vertical works when he was at Vertical, he said that they were slowly stopping the publishing of Osamu Tezuka works because he felt that the good ones had run out, so to speak. But
well, on the topic of somebody who could have charted their own course if they were still around.
yes, and speaking of Ed Chavez, Dempa announced a new license as well. They licensed Renjo Desperado. And that one is pretty. It's an action comedy manga. It looks kind of wacky. The young samurai woman who wanders the frontiers looking for love, but all the men she encounters are scum.
That sounds like what's it? Never mind. I forgot the name of the title.
And I think it's complete too, so they'll be able to get that out hopefully in short order, 6 to 8 volumes in that. But that's starting in 2022. So
yeah, they got some backlog to get through.
All right. Well, thanks for the list. I'll have to find that a little bit more of that information. We'll put it up. 2 more things we'll mention here tonight. Our friend Jesse Betteridge, he recommended and noted to the I Miss Bionics group, and it got our attention. CBC Gem, the streaming service of the national broadcaster up here in Canada, added a number of items for this month. And there's a handful of items of note from Japan, mainly documentaries and a handful of dramas. What grabbed Jesse's attention, I know, is that, well, Japanese dramas just are notoriously hard to find on streaming services. Unless, of course, they're of the newest variety, or if Netflix has a co-production in it. So those caught his attention. Obviously, the documentaries caught his attention too. And these are sort of in the lead up to an Olympics that people will debate whether or not should be happening. Just for reference on the Olympics and sporting events just about to happen in Japan, I know that there's a Grand Sumo tournament happening this week, but I think it's in Nagoya this time around. They're not using the Kokuikan in Tokyo because that's now being converted to become the boxing venue at the Olympics in a couple weeks' time. And the sumo tournament that's just started today, as we are taping this, will end just before said Olympics. And also, finally, and this is a follow-up on the story I told on my mind a couple weeks ago, in my never-ending attempt to make all of you hate the song Hatsukoi, I will be adding 2 new videos to the On My Mind on our website, animeroundtable.com. The first video depicts the one and only, because, TM Revolution is your hookup, holler if you hear me, a 2013 video of him at a Christmas special with the idol group Momoiro Clover Z, and it's just him bantering with the girls of the group. And ultimately, at the end of this video, he does, I guess for lack of a better choice of words, a karaoke performance with, I believe it's Kanako Momota, and they sing Hatsukoi. About the only thing missing from that were the drinks. But we'll put that up. You'll get a kick out of that. And I think you'll get a bigger kick. Another YouTuber decided to do a mashup of 12 different covers of the same song, and it basically played the whole song through, but every few seconds switched to each of the 12 different covers. This is kind of a treat to watch. You'll get to hear how the song sounded from around the time it came out to roughly, I think a cover maybe in roughly 2007. And there's a couple of them that will surely catch your attention, although one of them sounded a bit like Bob Dylan. It's worth a listen, and maybe in Neil's case, worth listening to while smoking. Yeah, I think that's the word we'll use. But it's really just worth listening to. And I think I left the other guys speechless in mentioning all of that. In any event, we'll, as I said, we'll put that up for your listening pleasure, and hopefully you will start to hate the song much the same way I might have back then. Anyway, that's all we got for this episode. One more time, a reminder where you can reach us, animeroundtable@gmail.com, at animeroundtable, animeroundtable.com. We also have a Spotify playlist too, so you can check that out, along with the podcast itself. Also, don't forget, if possible, to leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, because those reviews might help us find new listeners, although word of mouth helps too. But if you're going to leave us a review, Kevin,
we would appreciate a 4 or 5 star review wherever it lets you do that.
We typically do episodes once every other week, although we'll once in a while do something on our off weeks too. And so that said, subscribe to us wherever you are seeing or listening to this so you can be notified whenever something new drops in the field. But once again, that's it. So until next time, thank you for listening. Have a good one from Toronto. Join us again for another edition of the Anime Roundtable.
Okay.